Right. Hey, folks. So, getting old, that is the topic of today. How do I continue to make gains in my 40s? That's the question of the day. Hopefully, this video will be useful for guys in their 40s and beyond, but also for you young bucks as well. For you guys in your 20s and 30s, this is something to consider because it's coming for you. Age doesn't stop. Father time does not quit. You will not win. So, you're going to get older. The hope is you get older, you are still able to maintain doing whatever you're passionate about and looking good. You want to try and maintain a good level of mobility, strength, health as you get older. And today's video is going to be discussing ways that I do that. But before we go into it, do make sure you drop a comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already, like the video. Also, if you're interested in coaching, there's a link in the description. So thank you very much for the support on the channel, by the way, recently. You guys have been amazing. All right. Now, I've been thinking about this as I've been looking to make this video for a while. I did do a video on this a few years ago, which is still very valid. But since then, I've gotten better at speaking on the camera. So I wanted to have this first part of the video be a little bit more conversational. So I think about this a lot. And I have a bit of a theory about this that you guys might relate to. My theory is that the body fundamentally changes every 10 years. That's what I've experienced. This year, I'll be 43. I'm currently in my mid-40s, right? I'm on the way to 50, the next 10-year step. And in my experience, I think things change roughly every 10 years. So things that I did in my 20s and ways that I built muscle, ways I ate, ways that I slept even, they won't necessarily carry over in a positive way to my 30s. And that goes on into the 40s, etc., etc. You'll just notice a shift in how your body adapts to what you do, the way you eat, the way you train, the way you live your life, basically. And every step of the way, the response gets worse, right? So it's not like you can't have a good physique in your 40s or 50s or 60s, but you have to be a little more thoughtful about what you do. I get guys coming to me in their early 30s, like, Faz, I don't know what happened. I've been doing all the same things I used to do in my 20s, but look at me. I got a dad bod. And the answer is always, that worked in your 20s because you didn't know what the fuck you were doing. You got away with it because you were 20. So every step of the way, you have to refine your approach more and more. So if you see a guy who's got a good physique in his 40s, he knows what he's doing. If you see a guy who's got a great physique in his early 20s, that's not necessarily an endorsement that he knows what he's doing. I know lots of local coaches around here who are horrendous at what they do. I saved the guy's contest prep 2 years ago. He came to me saying, Faz, my coach has cut my salt 6 weeks out. I haven't been able to poop for a week. This guy hadn't been able to take a shit for a week. So he consulted with me, hired me as a coach, dropped his old coach. I got him to the competition. He pooped that night, right? Just adjusting some variables with his electrolytes. So my point is, a guy who's in his 40s, 50s, and 60s with a good physique typically is going to know more than your average 20-year-old or teenager, just by virtue of the fact that things change and you have to refine your approach to continue having the same level of physique. Now, yes, steroids come into it, but that comes into it in any age. So that's not a comeback to what I'm saying. So my theory is things change roughly every 10 years, and you need to refine your approach if you want to continue having a good physique, good health. Things that you do will change. So the way that you see some guys train in their 40s and 50s might not necessarily be applicable. I mean, I put all my training up. You guys see me train, I put in my sessions, and every now and again, I'll get a question saying, why are you doing this? And, you know, it's a perfectly good question. Thank you for asking. But sometimes the answer is just simply, that works for me. It's for me. It's not necessarily what I recommend to everyone, but it's things that I have to do now, which are specific to my body. So things change, and over time, you accumulate more wear and tear, which takes me on to my second point in this little preamble. Your joints will hurt. Okay, this is just sort of a running joke between guys in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Something hurts all the time, right? It's not a bad thing. Like I'll say, oh, my knees or whatever, or my elbows or whatever. And somebody might say, what have you done? What did you do? How did you do that? I didn't do anything. I just got old, man. You don't have to do anything. I could go to sleep in the wrong way. My neck could get a crick. I could be walking down the road, jump over a pothole and strain my back. It's just, you get fucking old, dude. Like, that's it. So that's just part of growing, older. So you don't want to add to that with your training. You want to try and mitigate some of those things which naturally occur with age. Okay. So I want to share with you in this video 3 broad points. And then from there, we can hopefully create some discussion in the comments, and hopefully this will help you. And as I say, this is not just for older guys. This is for younger guys as well. Things to bear in mind. Okay. We all get old at different rates, right? So point 1, this is something I want to start with straight away because I think it's a super important point. Your mind will limit you before your body. This is so true, right? Because I see this in comments as well. Like guys will say, look, I'm old now. I'm not, what can I accomplish? Have I lost my beginner gains? In my experience, being a coach for 10 years now, my experience is everybody has a certain view of themselves, which has been ingrained via years of experience. Now, when you're a kid, your view of yourself changes over time. Yeah. You go through puberty and that's a pretty big change. So when you're a kid, you're growing up, you're growing taller, you're growing wider, you're going through puberty, you're going hairier, whatever. So you see your body change. So you're used to change. So if I get a kid who comes to me in his early 20s, he's a lot more pliable. His mind is a lot more willing to believe that he can achieve his goals because he's seen his body change so much. Now, you get a guy in his 40s, and let's say he's been training for a couple of years, but basically he's looked the same for like 20 years. Every time he wakes up in the morning, he goes to the bathroom, it's the same body. Maybe over the years, he's gotten a little bit fatter. He's gotten a little bit hairier. He's gotten a little bit paler, but basically it's the same body. That guy is going to have less of a sense of belief. So your mind will limit you. A lot of the older guys, they're not willing to, first of all, believe that it's possible. But secondly, they're not willing to change. And that's the catalyst for your physique evolving. The catalyst is you willing to change. A lot of old guys will have bad habits. Like, oh, I like to have a few beers on Friday with the lads. And I go to see my father on Tuesday, so I like to have a beer with him then. And Saturday night, I mean, it's date night, with the wife. So yeah, I usually have a couple of drinks then. Dude, you're drinking for half the week. Maybe we want to address that, if you want to change your physique. Now, I'm not saying you have to give it up. I mean, I don't drink, but I train a lot, so I don't want to feel bad and dehydrated the next day. But, you've got to make some changes. This is what I'm saying. You've got to be willing to change if you're expecting to see a change. And my point number 1 is people's minds will limit them. The guys in their 40s and 50s, they have this belief, this view of themselves, which has been ingrained by decades and decades of how they see themselves. If you're that skinny, scrawny guy and you've been that way for 20 years, it's very difficult to see yourself any different. And your habits will support that physique you currently have. You are a result of your habits. Yeah, genetics come into it, but not for the average guy. The average guy can get pretty yoked. I was the average guy when I first started training. So your mind will limit you because you'll have this viewpoint of yourself. You'll also, on the other hand, you'll have a routine, which you don't really want to give up. Like, I want the physique, but you know what? I like doing this. I like going out for the one weekend. I like having these beers. I like eating like this. You'll have all these excuses. And the other thing that comes into mind is kids. Kids are almost the perfect excuse for everyone. And whenever guys say to me, oh, you know what? I wish I could do that, but I've got kids. Oh, man, there's so much effort. It takes so much of my time. I wish I could sit their kids down, to have the conversation with us. It's like me, that guy, and his kids sitting around. Now, please carry on telling me why your life and your physique is such a disappointment and it's your kid's fault. I think that would be hilarious, Like, please do just go over what you just said to me and tell me about how every problem in your life is a result of your kids. Like, tell me that in front of them. Let's see how that goes down. My point is, kids are an effort, right? But they're also a very convenient excuse not to change. The change is a catalyst for you changing physically and mentally as well. If you're not willing to change and you've got a convenient excuse like your kids, your job, all these things which apparently you have no control over, well, then what you're saying is you're not really willing to change. And that's the thing. Younger guys are usually a lot more pliable. Now, older guys, they usually have more resources available, they're at a point in life where they earn more money and all that kind of stuff. And that is a positive. But unless you're willing to change, that goes for nothing. Younger guys, much better in that area, much more willing to believe that they can be the next, Fazlifts or whoever else. So that's point one. Your mind will limit you, no matter what age of life you're in. In fact, pretty much guaranteed you'll have at least one person in the comments who will say, can't do it, I'm too old, it's not for me. Okay, cool. It's fine. Cool story, bro. I mean, didn't ask, but thanks for saying. But you see what I mean? There'll always be somebody who will just defensively come up with excuses, even if you don't ask them to. And you think to yourself, wow, that is the definition of cope. So that's point one. Point two is a little bit more of a practical point. Your joints will be the limiting factor. And if you want an analogy for this, think about it like this. You have a timeline on your joints. It's a bit like the cam belt on a car, right? You have mileage. In general, your muscles won't limit you. It'll be your joints. As I say, it's like the cam belt analogy. You have a certain amount of mileage on your joints before they start to give you issues and before you have to work around them. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not like you're just useless at a certain point. Far from it. Right? But at a certain point, you will have to change your training to account for your mileage. You've hit that 70,000 miles. Your cam belt needs changing. Your approach needs changing in the gym. So usually what this means is volume usually needs to be lower. Now, to add a bit more nuance to that, really what you have to do is pay a lot more attention to the volume intensity relationship. As volume goes up, intensity needs to go down. As intensity goes up, volume goes down. So generally speaking, if you're a guy who is actually pretty strong in his 40s, if you're training to failure and you really train to failure, you're going to have to limit the amount of sets you do per week. And it's probably going to fall beneath the 10 to 20. If you're genuinely an advanced guy, let's say you're built like me, right? And you're in your 40s, the level of volume you can get away with is probably going to fall less than the commonly quoted 10 to 20 if you're training everything to failure. You might be as low as 6. And you might not think that's enough. But if you're at the point where you're pretty jacked, you've been doing it for a while, and you're trained to failure and beyond, to get consistently good recovery, your volume may have to be that low. And that will allow you to carry on progressing. Now, the other way you can do this is train with a couple of reps in the tank, and then you'll be able to get away with a little bit more volume. But again, you're probably not going to be able to do reckless amounts of volume. I mean, my perspective is you don't need to. You guys hopefully have all seen my volume recommendations. I normally recommend about 8 to 14, 16 sets per body part per week. So those upper echelons of 20 sets, practically speaking, I don't think many people are really benefiting from those extra sets. In my opinion, as you get older and as you get more advanced, you're going to be doing less volume. So if you are old and advanced, well, you're not going to be able to do much and consistently recover and feel good, right? So you're going to have to pay a lot more attention at this age to the volume and intensity paradigm. There's nothing wrong with keeping a couple of reps in the tank. You remember, progression in good form, medium to high rep ranges is the bottom line. However you do that, whatever, right? So it's fine if you want to do a bit more volume and stay a bit further away from failure. Just be sensible, okay? And bear in mind, progression is the bottom line. If you're progressing, who cares? Like, who cares if you're only doing 6 sets per body part per week? If you're progressing, great, whatever. So the final point, and you guys should know this if you have listened to me for any length of time, stupid lifting is pointless. What do I mean by stupid lifting? What I'm specifically talking about is lifting with the type of form which is just reckless. Swinging, heaving, cheating. It's pointless. Lifting heavy for the sake of it is pointless. And I know the rebuttal. I know what some of you guys are thinking, because I've had this conversation with somebody before, and he said to me, Faz, I've got to lift like this because I want to strengthen my tendons. I want to strengthen my joints. My joints hurt all the time, so I want to get them strengthened. That's why he was doing lots of rest pause, clusters, swinging the weight up. And I'm like, look, my brother in Christ, your joints hurt because you're lifting like a fucking idiot. So don't lift like a fucking moron, right? Relevant in your 20s and 30s. It's even more relevant in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. Now, I know guys who get coached from other coaches who will continue to lift like this well into their 50s and 60s and beyond. They'll cheat all the time, do low reps, all for the sake of, this is fun, this is what I do. And every 2 months they're injured. And I just think to myself, why? What's the point? I mean, listen, none of my clients do that. So whatever, you guys do what you like. But if you're watching this video, just ensure you take care of yourself. Yes, you're old. Yes, you're getting older, but your body is still your vessel till the day you die. Take care of it. So yeah, stupid lifting, generally pointless. Most of the time in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, my general guideline is to move more towards bodybuilding training. Understand when the bell is tolled, because that's what screws everybody up. Everybody who's in their 20s and 30s, they think injuries are not going to happen to them. They think, I've got a new way of training. I'm not going to be injured like the previous people. I do conjugate, so I'm not going to be injured. And they very confidently say this in their 20s and 30s. I do linear, so I'm not going to be injured. I do DUP, so I'm not going to be injured. Then they have an injury, they have another injury. They go, nope, it's fine. I'm good. I'll rehab it. Let's carry on. Father Time will get you. So, on the one hand, stupid lifting is pointless. On the other hand, recognize the signs. Yes, you were a strong man. You were a power lifter. You were just a beast in the gym. Right, cool. You can still be a beast. No one's stopping you. Fuck, I'm still a beast. I'm still going to be a beast in my 50s, But you still have to adjust your training to be a beast in different ways. Have different goals. Stop wrecking yourself. Listen to your body. So make sure you adjust before you're forced to. Right, so that was 3 points and just an open, honest conversation about how I stay jacked in my 40s, because I'm absolutely massive, frankly. And those are all things which have helped me because I've been through an evolution of strongman, bodybuilding, and powerlifting. I've done it all. So I know what I'm talking about in this area. So listen to me or don't. It's your body. I'm going to carry on lifting well, lifting hard, and lifting healthy, living my best life. If you want to join me, there's a link in the description for the coaching. Peace out. Have a great weekend.